Hey y'all, we're back. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I had a kitty that, well, actually, all three of the kitties decided to go outside. I was trying to get groceries in and they were like, ta-da, look at us. We're going to go outside. Kenzie was watching them on the video and she's like, Mom, the cats are outside. I'm like, okay, let's go get them. Huh, you're bad. He's sitting over here pouting now. All right, we're going to hop into this. Hey y'all. Okay, we are back. So, sorry, Kenzie called me while the intro was playing, so I was finishing up with that. Hold on. Let me text her back right quick. Sorry, we're going to get into this. Give me 1 second. Okay. We are going to talk about what is happening with the situation around the Aftermath Foundation, Mike Rinder, Down the Rabbit Hole News, and the ex-Scientology community in a whole. So as you guys know, there has been a lot that's been going on recently. I mean, it's not really recent. I shouldn't say that. It's been happening for years. Scientology has been, in my eyes, a cult for as long as they've been around. I don't know. As a never in, I see this so different on all of it. I'm a never into Scientology. I'm a never into Mormonism. I lived around the Mormons and know probably more about the Mormons than most cults. But Scientology is something that we have done extensive research on for years. Kyle and I, as you guys know, we have enjoyed the deep dives into the cults, considering my own upbringing and how that all panned out. Anyways, so I look at this in a little bit of a different route. We have talked about the protests recently. We've talked about the competition that kind of exists within these ex-cult communities. We've talked about the foundation of Scientology, where it started, where it kind of has gone. One thing we haven't talked about much is the foundation called the Aftermath Foundation. We talk a lot about OUR, which is a 501c3. For those of you that know, we definitely have deep dove on a lot of the stuff around Tim Ballard OUR. Tim Ballard founded OUR, which is Operation Underground Railroad. We've been following the civil cases there, the criminal cases with Tim Ballard, the extensive lies, all of that have gone up. Shifting gears a little bit, we've been talking about Scientology and some of the happenings that have been going on. I have mixed feelings on some of this. There is so many different angles that you can look at this from, but the thing that I am picking up that to me really stands out is there's a lot of irresponsible people currently in this arena, and we have a lot of victims that have experienced extensive trauma with their indoctrination, their upbringing with Scientology, that are seeking answers. They're seeking refuge. They're seeking support, validity. They want to be validated and heard. They're victims. They're survivors, truthfully. But there's a lot of irresponsible things that are happening, and some by people who have been seen as a hero, in my opinion. Most of you have watched the Aftermath show that became popular on TV, the series. I'm trying to tread on this lightly because I don't want to piss all over the good that did. Hold on. Sorry, kid. I don't want to diminish the good that the foundation has done, because I think there was good that the foundation did do. I think there was good that the TV show did. I also think that a lot has been missed by so many because this is trauma. So when a reality TV show is made out of people's pain and suffering, we see it with the Mormon community so much, escaping polygamy. We see it, the Amish, when they escaped. There's so much trauma in these groups of people when they leave high demand religions, cults. It's not a one side thing. It's all of them. So it's easy to, when you have grown up with such extensive indoctrination, to see somebody come to light that you think is taking accountability for all of the wrongdoings that they've done or been a part of, and you kind of make them the hero in your head. I think that happened a lot with Mike Rinder. Again, I thought Mike Rinder was amazing from the show, but I always knew in the back of my mind, there was enough that was stated that he was around during some of the worst things that have happened. Time frame wise, seems he fits into what happened with Paulette Cooper. I don't know if he was involved in any of that, but we kind of have a way of, especially with high religion, I can speak for my own. My gauge of what normalcy is was broken from start. So I had this, anybody that came in to like rescue me was a hero. And you kind of forget all of the other pieces of it. It's easy to overlook that stuff because you're like, this person's going to save so many people. He's going to help so many people. So they've kind of become the hero again, even though that hero was a villain, is a villain. Doesn't mean villains can't change or villains don't put masks on at times. But the reality is, when you have a bunch of people that have experienced such deep trauma, they have trauma responses. When you have somebody that's platformed on a reality TV show, reality TV is not real. It is not like real life. They cut things, they take pieces out. It's twisted and turned so it's palatable for the public. That's not the raw, real story behind so much of this. So people's trauma on these episodes is diminished. The true stories aren't told. So it's easy to start forming these hero ideas about people based off of reality TV shows, when that's just not it. It's really not. That's why I have a problem with the reality TV in the cult world. I always have. I've talked to you guys about that. It's something that bothers me really badly because I think so many of the bad actors end up in these reality TV shows and are seen as heroes when in reality they've done a lot of harm. Yeah, CCK, it's really easy to do this crossover. The intent could be good no matter what. Like, I'm not trying to diminish the fact that there has obviously been good done from this show, from the foundation. There is good that will be done. But at what cost is that good coming? Mike Rinder has been obviously feeling like he's under personal attack recently. So if you haven't been following this, Down the Rabbit Hole News actually brought a victim of some horrible stuff. I'm not going to tell her story. Miriam Francis is her name. I encourage you to go watch her story extensively on Rabbit's channel. She speaks from her heart. She tells her story. She was extremely victimized by somebody that was connected to Scientology. Scientology helped cover it up. Mike Rinder was a part of Scientology. So many people helped put this facade on and continue her abuse for a long time. She has every right to feel angry. She has every right to feel like she's been re-victimized over and over again. Absolutely has. Her story first came out on the reality TV show. Again, it goes back to they use people's trauma for profit. We talk about it with OUR, Tim Ballard. They are still using people's stories to profit for their foundation that isn't helping. What are they helping do? That's a whole other situation. But I'm seeing a lot of crossover right now between OUR and the Aftermath Foundation. And if the Aftermath Foundation doesn't get ahead of some of this stuff and realize what's happening, they're going to soon end up very similar. You have a lot of people who have been a part of a lot of harmful tactics. It's hard to go back and think I did this to other people. It's hard to take accountability for all of the harm that they've done. So while we can recognize that they have taken accountability for X, Y, and Z, does that give them a pass? Because you have celebrities that are on these shows that are helping give victims voices that are victims themselves. Does that give them a pass because of their celebrity status? Mike Rinder has made some interesting choices recently. One of those choices being when Rabbit decided to work with this victim survivor, she reached out on behalf of the victim survivor and listed a bunch of questions to Mike Rinder, directly to Mike Rinder. Instead of Mike Rinder responding, he used an attorney on behalf of the Aftermath Foundation and responded to Rabbit. Made some pretty, most of you guys have seen it, some pretty interesting statements in there from an attorney representing the Aftermath Foundation and Mike Rinder, because he is on the board. Let's just go over here. Let's go over here and look at this. And the reason I'm showing you this is for full transparency reason, because I'm not just one to say things. So this is the board of directors for the Aftermath Foundation. Claire Headley, Christy Colbrand, Mike Rinder, Mark Headley, Ray Jeffrey, Amy Scobie, Mark Pesh. Okay, so as you can see, Mike Rinder is on the board of the Aftermath. He's a board member. So instead of Mike responding to the questions that this victim had, he gets an attorney involved. The attorney makes some, in my opinion, poor decisions, poor choices of words, kind of throws shade. Okay. Miriam comes on, tells her story with Rabbit, talks about why all of this is happening. And then days go by, everybody's talking about it. It's getting a lot of traction in the ex-Scientology community because there's a lot of attention right now on the ex-Scientology community, as is because of the protests, recent happenings, Leah Remini's current lawsuit against David Miscavige and the Church of Scientology. There's just a lot happening. And you're on the heels of the Danny Masterson stuff. So there's just been a lot of traction. What there hasn't been is seemingly an investigation that really hasn't uncovered what Scientology does. I think that's the thing that I keep going back to that bothers me the most. We hear that they've worked with the FBI. We hear that they have done all these things, that they've turned over evidence. Why isn't the FBI doing a full-scale investigation on this cult? That's what I want to know. Why? What is it going to take for them to do a full investigation of the harm that's being done? There is allegedly stories of human trafficking. You can go listen to Serge Delmar. There are so many things that are going on. We know that abuses are being covered up over and over again. It's not an old practice, it's a current practice. There's people that are considered missing. So, back to point. This foundation is supposed to help victims of Scientology, their children, or people who are attempting to leave Scientology. So, after the response in the first letter from the attorney, there gets traction because he makes some comment about fleas and dogs and basically throws shade at Rabbit from Down the Rabbit Hole News. Okay, I can understand he was taken back by a never in. First of all, can we stop with the, oh my God, it's a never in, they don't know. Most of us have done more research or been around more cults for a long time than many of you. And not to piss on your parade, Mike, but some of us are very, very well versed in the cult tactics of not just Scientology, but our own experiences with cults and many others. Because unlike people want to think, Scientology isn't the only one that does these tactics. It's pretty widespread and it's pretty typical what's happening right now. This is kind of play by play, what's to be expected with a lot of this. So, this weird competition of, I don't know what the hell it is that happens in ex-cult communities. That's why I just kind of watch from the sidelines and watch everybody or really take it all in, because the cult becomes really culty even after the cult. But I get that you're wanting to like make up for things that you did, but diminishing everybody else isn't really working. It doesn't really stick to like, this is our mission and this is why we stand by it. Like, we want to help victims while re-victimizing victims. Anyways, side note. That shit just pisses me off because I'm telling you, the cult out of the cult becomes very culty and they continue to cult. And the competition in the ex community is filled with people who have suffered immense amounts of trauma, and every bit of it is as valid as the next piece, is too much to take at times. And a lot of egos. There's a lot of fucking egos in these spaces that sometimes need to just like sit and listen. They need to do a better job of listening and not being the loudest in the room. That happens a lot in these communities. We see it with the ex-Mormon community. There's so much. We see it with the evangelical Christians. It's across the board. So this isn't nothing new. He's the same as so many other people. He's platformed as the hero, just like Tim Ballard. You can compare him to Tim Ballard. They use their power and position. It harms other people. Then when people shine a light on it, they try to duck and hide, so on and so forth. This is very typical. I'm not trying to diminish what this is, because Miriam's story is super impactful and super important. But unfortunately, this is kind of par for the course. Okay, back to base here. So the Aftermath Foundation, he uses the Aftermath to respond to Rabbit, make some off-candid remarks through this attorney. I'm assuming he signed off on it because, well, that's the case. So the questions were asked, again, directly to Mike Rinder, sent to Mike Rinder, not the Aftermath Foundation. He responds by using an attorney that's representing the Aftermath Foundation, sends in this response. Things boil over. Everybody has their take on it. Everybody's heated. Miriam tells her story, which is really tragic. Then we come to yesterday. I was actually doing something and it pops up that he posted a blog. I sent it to Rabbit and said, girl, Mike's blog. That's all I said, because I knew she would know. My instant concern was Rabbit, not anything else, because they seem to try and discredit anybody that's not a part of the cult. Like, if you're not a part of the cult, you don't have a seat at their table type of thing. You shouldn't have an opinion on their cult. It's the weirdest shit in the world to me. But in his blog, he goes on and on. I encourage you to go read it. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen because he puts some information in here that wasn't necessary. So Mike Rinder has a blog. You can go on there and see, you just type in Mike Rinder's blog, it pops right up. It's titled, "It's Never a Bad Day for a Good Smear." It says smear campaign, and then there's a rabbit out of the hat. So he starts talking, and he's talking and talking and talking. Where it keeps going, though, is he's kind of trying to like shade some other people, which you can go listen to their story. They will all talk on their experience, why they're mentioned in this. But the part that I want to talk about is the part where he mentions rabbit. It says, "A rabbit out of David Miscavige's hat. Since I escaped from Scientology, I've rarely had to deal with efforts to undermine my credibility by people who are also fighting against Scientology, especially people who have suffered due to its abuses. Unfortunately, that changed in the last few months. These truth tellers have used and manipulated good people, supporters of our fight, who want to help end the criminal behavior of Scientology." These truth tellers, have used and manipulated good people, supporters of our fight, who want to help end the criminal behavior of Scientology. Mike, I hate to say this, but what have you ended? You've been out for how many years now? What have you ended? What's ended? Because all I see is not a proper investigation done, victims not getting justice, and Scientology seems to be doing just fine financially. The only thing that's really going to crumble them is tax exemption status being removed, in my opinion, or a full-scale investigation that uncovers the actual harm that they're doing. But we don't see that happening. We don't see an actual full-scale investigation. And I start to question, why is that? Is it because the information that's given to the investigators is cherry-picked? Just curious. And I would really like to know who's been used and manipulated. Over the past 7 years, Leah and I have found ourselves increasingly dealing with disputes between personalities within the group of former Scientologists, rather than focusing on the mission of ending the abuses and holding its leadership accountable. Based on my experience, it seems that some, perhaps based on their Scientology indoctrination, believe they need an enemy to fight. Who that enemy is doesn't matter. Even people on the same side. Actually, it does. It does matter. When you're a victim of abuse, it does matter who that enemy is. And just because you are now speaking out against them doesn't mean you're not an enemy. Doesn't mean that both things can't be true, that you could do some great since you're now out, but it doesn't mean they have to forgive or forget what you were a part of that harmed them personally or people that they care about. They don't have to forgive or forget. That's their story. So trying to say that they don't have an enemy or they have to have an enemy, that's not true. This is just kind of like one of those situations of pissing on everybody else's trauma to make you feel better in a way. That's what it feels like to me. Motivating people in this environment is pretty easy to do, especially if they are led to believe that attacking me in the Aftermath Foundation is the same as attacking Scientology. First and foremost, I hate to say this, but the Aftermath Foundation wasn't being attacked. I know other people have told you that, but the questions were specifically asked to you, not the Aftermath Foundation. They were asked to you. You made the choice of using a lawyer representing the Aftermath Foundation to respond to questions that were personally asked to you. Seems like you brought the Aftermath Foundation into this one. Could they be attacked on other situations? Possibly. But I'm going to give you an example of why that could be happening. And I don't think that the whole theory of it's the same as attacking Scientology, I don't buy that at all. You are dealing with a trauma-based situation. These people have suffered at the abuses of Scientology and people that push Scientology's rhetoric for years. It is what it is. You can't get a pass and expect a pass to be given to you just because you've exited that cult and done some good. We don't have to overlook the good you've done, but we don't have to give you a gold star and a pat on the ass. That's your story you can keep. That doesn't have to be everybody else's experience. With the introduction of YouTube into the world of former Scientologists, activism took on a new dimension, not only to tell the truth, but also a space where false narratives can be presented as truth. You should have firsthand knowledge of that one, huh? Where you can spin false narratives, just like you said above, that attacking you and the Aftermath Foundation, because Rabbit never did that. Rabbit didn't ever attack the Aftermath Foundation. She addressed you. She facilitated an avenue for Miriam to ask you questions as a third party. That was it. She gave you an avenue to respond. You chose to respond with the Aftermath Foundation and the attorney. But I like the twist here. YouTube is equally an excellent resource for news, information, and entertainment, and a platform ripe to elevate the most sensational and provocative content, even though it may not be rooted in truth. True, very true. Add to that the ability to easily monetize videos, and one can end up with content filled with half-truths, mistruths, and outright lies. Yep, absolutely. Sensational framing is designed to get clicks and generate revenue. So is reality TV shows. Reality TV shows are meant to do the same. CCK, can you still hear me? That's weird. Let me know if you guys can still hear me. Okay. He's right on the fact that people create half-truths. We see that all the time. That's what we've done for a year and a half. People absolutely exploit tragedies and trauma all the time. But so do reality TV shows that paint real victim stories in certain lights that aren't necessarily the truth. Reality TV show heroes oftentimes have capes on during the reality TV show because they're given a cape. It's TV, right? It's palatable for an audience. But is that cape actually earned? I don't know. The new wave of attacks began when Aaron Smith Levin was asked to remove himself from the board of the Aftermath Foundation. He originally agreed to do so voluntarily, but then agreed upon date came, he refused to go. All right, I'm not going to go any further in this because that's a different situation. And if you want to hear Aaron's breakdown of what actually happened with the emails, the back and forth, he shows all that proof on his channel a little while ago. I encourage you to go watch that because it's very interesting. Things that I didn't know that had happened. But what I want to finish talking about here is how he is trying to paint this narrative that somehow Rabbit is attacking him, the Aftermath Foundation, by giving a victim / survivor, because she is a survivor, but she's still a victim, a platform. Miriam has a bigger mission than her own justice, and that's very evident. Miriam, in my opinion, sounds like she wants a full-scale investigation done on this cult and all the harmful abuses, and it should be done. And somebody should be paying attention that the government has bended knee to the Church of Scientology for years. Why is that? Why would they bend a knee to the Church of Scientology that is harming so many people, allegedly trafficking children, holding passports, child labor laws? Why would they bend a knee to this and not do a full-scale investigation? Oh, wait, is it kind of like when OUR got the whole, and Tim Ballard got the investigation to go away into what was happening years ago? And come to find out now there's multiple civil suits happening. The Aftermath Foundation claims to provide care for people that have suffered at this abuse. With that comes responsibility. Duty of care is a legal definition, but it's also a moral definition. When you are asking victims, let me pull this up. Let me go over here. Slide this over. When you are asking victims to provide all of this information and then sign a waiver, hold on. Make sure you guys can see this. When you're asking the people who are wanting assistance, needing help, and then you ask them, wait, it says right here, just so we're clear, disclaimer, while all requests for assistance may be examined and evaluated, please keep in mind the purpose and main focus of the foundation, which is to help those who have left Scientology or the Sea Org, or those who want to leave but lack a system of support to rely on while getting on their feet in the outside world. Please provide as much information as you can. We will not be able to approve every application for aid, but complete information will aid in processing your application. All information provided will be kept confidential. That last line right there, all information will be kept confidential. If you go through here and apply, there's actually a form that you're requested to sign that you sign away some rights and responsibilities, basically, that they have access to XYZ. So they're asking for extensive information for you to share what has happened. That's pretty typical when requesting aid. They're saying that it will be kept confidential. This is the Aftermath Foundation again, because Mike brought that into play. He used an attorney representing the Aftermath Foundation to respond to this. Now he's saying in his blog that the Aftermath Foundation is being attacked. Meanwhile, in his blog, he goes on to release personal and private information of the victim. Whether she has spoke about this or not, as a member of this board, you released a victim's confidential information in your blog. What happened to the confidentiality here? An Aftermath Foundation. This is, you signed off on this? How did you sign off on this? If you did sign off on this, I would love to see why would you think this is acceptable? Whether or not she told her story, parts of her story on a television show or not, why would it be acceptable to ever release a victim's story? Her private information, documents. He releases going through his blog, you'll see, subsequent to the filming of the episode, I heard little or nothing from Miriam other than occasional pleasantries until she emailed me on August 28th, 2023. He attaches the emails in his blog. Originally, there was a link, I think, to the actual, did he remove it? He goes on to detail statements that she's made. She has an ongoing criminal investigation, mind you. Hey, B-Tim. She has a current ongoing criminal investigation, not only in the United States, but in Australia. Let's be clear on that. What she suffered was horrific. Again, go listen to her story on Rabbit's channel. But he brought the Aftermath Foundation in by hiding behind one of their attorneys when he was personally asked questions of. Then he brings the Aftermath attorney in who throws shade at Rabbit, who is facilitating a platform for a victim. That's it. That's all. Then he tries to take shots at her credentials, that she's just this anonymous person, basically. She represents victims, always has, and absolutely has the credentials to do it. But you go to up the ante, right? By releasing a victim's private information. A victim who reached out to the Aftermath Foundation for help because she was having struggles. She says that herself. You find it acceptable to try and weaponize the Aftermath Foundation when you need to, but then you hide behind it after you release information like this. You have a duty of care, in my opinion, a moral duty. Might not be a legal definition because you are just a charity, but you are a member of that board. If anybody's tarnishing the reputation of the Aftermath Foundation, it would be you, Mike Rinder. You've done a lot of good. You've brought a lot of eyes. Nobody can take that from you. Nobody's trying to take that from you. But your cult is culting, and it's very apparent. And pretty soon, what's going to come of this, in my opinion, will be similar to what we've seen with OUR. I don't think the same allegations will ever be made. God hope not. But their credibility tanked because of their own founder hiding behind all of these amazing good doings to cover up his misdoings at the same time. It's not far off. Abso-fucking-lutely, Pika. That's my biggest concern. I'll be honest. I'm more concerned about Rabbit's personal safety because you got to remember, this guy is the head of OSA. Was the head of OSA for years. He's been away from it. Do you think he was picked for that reason, for that role for a reason? So were these other people. They were high-ranking people around OSA for years. You touch a hair on that rabbit's head, you'll meet the drama community. Trust and believe. Rabbit's loved for a reason. Rabbit's one of the few creators, the very few that I actually go to for advice. Because I trust her, and she's always been spot on and good to me. When I saw this yesterday, I was pissed, and I actually had to sit with how I felt about it, because he's trying to throw shade, and he tries to do the whole thing. Well, this is what, Scientology wants, is me to be made to look at the bad guy. No, dude, you did that. Okay. None of us can take that. We don't have to take that. Your misdeeds are your misdeeds. You're an adult. We get it. When you're in a cult, you do shitty things. We all know that. Most of us are survivors of cults. Well, that talk about this shit or have a really passionate interest in it because we understand the harm firsthand. But you don't get to be on a reality TV show, give yourself a gold star and a pat on the ass and expect everybody else to do the same. And you don't get to hide behind a foundation and claim you're doing all this good and then throw shade at everybody who questions you. And then up it a notch by releasing private information. You have a do better, be better. You want everybody else that's talking about this to do better, be better. You're setting a great example. A great example. None of us can ever right your wrongs. And we don't have to overlook it. Just because, people are trying to unravel how they feel that have been a part of this and come to some sort of place that they can reconcile everything that they've been through, doesn't mean that it's going to be comfortable for you. You can still have done good. I think Leah Remini is an amazing person. I question a lot now because of her alignments. She's got an ongoing lawsuit, which I hope really does some things. I also think she's probably in a little bit of a tough spot. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of that shit like that, nor do I want to, because when you're in the inner circle of the cults, after they leave the cults, the cult behavior still happens a lot. I know, Pika, that's why I said he'll meet the drama community. He obviously, him trying to just classify her as drama too just cracks me up, because it's like giving a victim a place to tell their story. And she has such a bigger mission. Like Miriam's focus isn't just solely on herself, at all. At all. She is so focused on the harm that has been done to so many people. And as they're unraveling stuff, you can look back at the dates in their own videos telling them a lot. They release bits and pieces that weren't put out in the show and these files and all of that other stuff. There is a lot of harm that affected a lot of people that people aren't just going to get over. You were a part of it. But now you're bringing in your foundation and you're the one causing their credibility to tank. You are doing that. The shit that happened between you and Aaron, I gave the aftermath a lot of, I'll be honest, I was still like, I don't know what to believe here. You know, it is what Aaron showed it today. And I was like, well, that you can't really second guess that shit, huh? Yeah, Pika. But in the cult world, in the ex-cult world, the one thing I have found in all of the communities, and this isn't intentional and they don't mean it to happen, but there's a huge competition that happens within the members, and they don't like some of the ex-Mos love the fact that I talk about this as an outsider, never being in, especially because I have so much firsthand knowledge with missionaries, lived in Utah, have gone to general conference. Like, I really take time and invest myself into them. Like, I don't just research online. Kyle and I took, as you guys know, 6 Mormon missionaries to a Scientology tour. Like, we genuinely invest time into like finding out, is this really what's happening? So, but they feel like their toes are being stepped on by outsiders. And the reason being is because it's a trauma response. A lot of it's a trauma response of, we don't want anybody to, they want to take down what's harmed them so bad. Never going to take that from any of them. They want to be a part of what takes down the thing that has abused them all so much. But it becomes very competitive and it becomes very toxic in ways because you've got a lot of people who are trying to heal from some of the most horrific abuse and indoctrination that you'll ever experience. And people don't respond properly, adequately all the time. Like, that's just not going to happen. Trauma is something that is long lasting. And when you have a group of people, especially with Scientology, who do not believe in mental health, that indoctrination does not go away. Most of these people did not leave Scientology and go get help. That's a huge thing. So you have to, there's so many pieces at play here. They don't want to believe that mental health is a really big need still for so many of them. They don't believe in medication because that's what they've been taught. Like, there's just so many different pieces of it. So they don't want to go get help because they have to admit that they have a problem. Men, it's hard to do that in general. Secondly, admitting that you were in a cult and harmed other people is really hard. Like, you're not going to get many of these people to go in and sit down in front of a therapist and pour this all out, even though it's confidential and they're never going to get turned in or anything like that. But it's a big thing in these communities. And some of them feel, when you talk about their stories and how to bring down awareness to this or whatever, they don't want an outsider doing that because they feel like some of what could come won't be, like, they wouldn't be the part of bringing it down when it takes everybody. This is going to take, not one person is going to single-handedly take this cult down. Does that make sense? Like, there is not a chance in hell. It's not going to be one person's story. It's going to be a collective effort, and it's going to have to be an investigation fully into the Church of Scientology and the harmful practices, or tax removal. I really think the only place that you're going to cripple this cult is a full investigation being done and tax exemption being removed. Truthfully, money is where you have to hit these people. Money and power. That's what they have. That's why they can continue to get away with these abuses. People with money and power. Look at OUR, Tim Ballard. Look at the connections within the Mormon Church, the Utah Attorney General. You can cross all of this. You can take what's happening to Tim Ballard. I say this all the time. What's happening to the victims of Tim Ballard and compare it to the victims of Danny Masterson and see the exact same type of silencing techniques, everything. It is so similar, but it is so hard for people in that arena to allow outsiders in. We are worldly. We are scary. Trusting people is very hard when every person that they've ever trusted in their entire lives has let them down. It doesn't matter if they're 15 years out. That doesn't go away. They don't have trust. So to trust an outsider who has never been in, that's a huge thing. That's why they form these little tiny groups. They become very cliquey because they can relate to each other's pain and they don't trust anybody outside of that. That's natural. Over time, they will. But it's a hard thing to break through. That's why I also don't try to reach out to any of them or ask for their stories. I just sit back and watch and pick, like cherry pick the background stuff, the bigger pieces of it. Because I think the Aftermath Foundation could do amazing jobs, but they need to reevaluate what they're doing right now. Having Mike hide behind the Aftermath Foundation, firing shots at other people, releasing information of a victim is a bad look. Whether or not you have a legal duty of care, you have a moral duty of care, especially when somebody has reached out to you for help. My opinion. EMDR is amazing. Kenzie did EMDR. She loved EMDR. But that is, you're talking to people who have never believed in psychology, psychiatric care, anything like that, and then expect them to go in and, talk about it. Trauma-informed therapy is so huge, but it's going to take a lot for them to get in there. But I wanted to speak on this, not from Rabbit's perspective, but, at first I was really confused. I was like, where is this headed? Like, I was really confused on all of it. And then I sat back, and the light bulb finally went off last night. And then the part that really pisses me off is he's weaponizing the foundation when it's convenient for him, and then claiming that no, they're not. The Aftermath has been brought in by you. Maybe other people have called you out on other stuff, but that was not how this went. And then he tries to demean people by saying that people spin stories and false narratives. That's exactly what you're fucking doing. Meanwhile, doxing a victim, putting their information out there with no regard. He's pulling a Justin for all. Absolutely, Pika. Yep. And that's the thing is victims will. I talk to a lot of victims around the Mormon stuff. And I am hesitant to do some stories because these people don't stop. They will try to silence anybody any way they can. But this needs to be said because people need to pay attention that the fact of this is a foundation that is claiming that they're doing good for victims, meanwhile releasing private information of a victim. That's a huge thing. You can take this, break this out of Scientology. Let's take this back. You can take this out of Scientology completely. You can take it out of the religious situation, out of the forms of all of it. You can take it completely out of it. What you still have is a bunch of mess. Victims deserve voices. You don't get to tell victims how they respond, how they feel, what they need to know, what is going to help them heal. You don't get to judge that. You were seen as a hero for a long time. Was that actually earned? Or was that a trauma response? In my opinion, it was a trauma response. Yeah. Not only did they not respond, but then he turns around and weaponizes it. Yeah. Pretty shitty, if you ask me. Pretty shitty. But this is what happens when you also have boards of families and friends that are really cliquey. Again, look at OUR. We just talked about OUR getting a whole new board. And they've still got connections to Ballard. Sometimes it's hard to sit back and look at this from an outside, especially for the ones that are in. When they're in it, it's so hard because it affects so many different things of their world. but they really need to pull themselves back and look at this from an outside perspective and what they would think if this was another charity that was helping victims. How would they feel? Would they feel that this was acceptable? I don't know if they can do that though. Yeah, Bunny Buddy. Well, they're 501c3. They're a 501c3, so their 990s are public. So I've already pulled their ProPublica and looked at their 990s. So it's only been in the last couple of years that they've actually made, decent money in their charity. It'll be interesting to see what their 2023 looks like when that's published. Their 2022 and 2021 are up. But it's just, I'm not disappointed in him, Bunny, honestly, because I didn't have any expectation from him personally, but a lot of these people did. A lot of these people really gave a lot of credence to him and some others that were kind of became the faces of leaving Scientology. That naturally happens. People who have been born into this type of indoctrination were quick to give somebody the hero status when they really aren't deserving of it. We're quick to look at somebody that might talk a good talk to that hero status because we've been treated like shit our entire lives. We don't expect much of people. Does that make sense? We don't have a really high level of what we expect from people. So we'll take kind of anything and the rest just part of it, right? And like I said, he can be both. He can be still, the work he's done has been admirable. Like they have done a lot. He has taken a lot of hits, but he also gave a lot of hits. And to expect people just to forgive all of the shit that he did, that's not fair. It's not fair. It's not going to be realistic because people are trying to uncover how much abuse has gone on and hope that something will get an investigation going. And he's just, I don't think it's necessarily because he thinks he'll be indicted on charges or anything like that. I don't know. He claims he sat down with the FBI multiple times and has done all sorts of stuff. Will we ever know? No. The thing is, he seemed ashamed of some of the dirty tricks when he spoke on his TV show. Bunny, but again, it goes back to reality TV. This is why I have a hard time with cult stuff being presented on reality TV because it's really not. That's why I have a hard time with these stories being twisted into reality TV shows. It's great. It gets awareness out, but it gets very limited awareness out, and it's not really reality. And so many times the heroes in those reality TV shows are pretty shitty human beings. Yeah. I get that. I can see what you're saying. No, he made a choice. He made an absolute choice. He made a choice. Everybody's responsible for their choices, even though how do I say this too? Because this might piss somebody off. Oftentimes abuse victims become abusers, even in cult settings. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that's necessarily the truth with him, but oftentimes abuse victims can become abusive. It's part of the indoctrination, and then it also kind of trails over. So when they are done abusing other people and have the epiphany of waking up, the pain of what they've done to other people is too hard to bear. Like, part of his response is probably not being able to look at all of the things he actually was a part of. We've got so many aspects at play here. There's so many pieces of this. And truthfully, the psychology and mindfuck of a cult is deep and it's everlasting. Like, I'm 41 years old and don't know if I'll ever be healed from the shit that I've experienced because of high demand religions. Fuck out of here. It is a very curated. Yeah. And that's why it's so easy for people to buy into this hero personality and give credence where it's sometimes not even deserved to begin with. Like we were shown a very I just took my ring off because it keeps falling off. Um, we were shown a very palatable version of what they wanted us to see. If that's what they wanted us to see, you can always imagine what the true story looks like. Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to come it's really hard. Some people can't take that either. Like some people will that have been abused feel that they deserve that abuse. That's all that they deserve. That they don't deserve any better either. So they will give status to somebody that's done a lot of bad. They will give them unnecessary gold stars that they didn't even earn. Yep. Yeah, at this time, yeah, it's hard. Pika, this is why what we talk about with the Ballard situation too is nobody wants to knock somebody who is trying to help other people, right? Am I muted now? Wait, muted. No. Um, Nobody wants to knock somebody that they think is doing good, right? It becomes a battle of the morals, and that's what we're seeing out here is we're watching people battle over right versus wrong, good versus bad, when in reality it's a mixture of all of the above. You can't you can't paint it like that. People have this horrible time, like calling out Ballard. They've tried to make it into a political thing, or now with Mike Rinder not even being called out, but being addressed of like, hey, you were involved in this time frame. People feel attacked, so it's on the defense. Scientology, they're taught to attack, not defend. It's so many. He blew. Yeah, he left on his own. Um, there was a lot of issues leading up to him leaving, though, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I watched his story of why he left. Yep, and you see, it's what they think they deserve. Yeah, the indoctrination is so deep, so deep. You can search. Mike Rinder very easily could have just lived a private life after leaving Scientology. Would that have been better? Mm, maybe. I think both things can be right, though. I think he's done some good, but I think it's fair to ask the questions. I think it's fair that he should be ashamed of himself for what his recent doings are and exposing a victim. I think that that's unacceptable. Um, I don't necessarily think he could have, though, Revival. I don't think so because his name is listed on anything that's going to get exposed about Scientology from a time frame for many years has his name all over it. So I don't think Scientology would have allowed him to live a private life free of harm because you got to remember too, this group of people has been attacked egregiously. We can't overshadow that because they absolutely have. Scientology absolutely wants to shut them down. Everybody's fighting the same fight against Scientology, but would it have been better? I'm not him to personally say. I don't know. I don't think he would have ever had that chance, though, being the fact that he was with Scientology and they are one of the most egregious on that front. I don't know. Well, he admits accounting by day that he's done a lot of wrong. He admits that he has been a part of a lot of horrible stuff. he's admitted to a lot of that stuff. Leah actually calls him out from time to time when they're doing stuff together. Like she'll say stuff and you were a part of that, you know, I got to say it kind of thing. So I think he acknowledges some of it, but I don't know if how much he could. Yeah, Running Bear, I've heard that. I don't know if I believe that he still has an office at the Church of Scientology, to be honest. There's a lot you got to weed through, and there's a lot of smear tactics by the Church of Scientology at the same time, if that makes sense. I'm very hesitant to believe a lot of stuff because these people's lives have been greatly affected by Scientology. I don't think he's still involved in Scientology. I'm not one of those that thinks that. I do not think that. I don't think that there would be any way for him to remain a part of Scientology and speak out about it, be a part of a television show. I don't think that would ever fly. I could be completely off base. I mean, he'd be the best undercover op ever. But I don't know. I don't know. The Danny Masterson stuff, like what happened there, I don't know. Hey, Cosmic Empress. Yeah, Bunny, I agree with you. Go in public, made a protection for him. Yeah, Clearwater is all Scientology. How do we come to any kind of solution to begin to fix the issues when we have a tendency in today's world to not be able to agree on basic facts? Peekaboo, that's the thing, especially with the cult mentality in the cult settings. So you're going to offend people. People are going to be offended. In these situations, it's a lot of offended people very easily. A lot of situations they don't want to talk about, but with the cult stuff, in order to come to a resolution, it involves government stuff. It involves talking about politics, which people are really uncomfortable with. But in order to change anything, we have to hit them in the pocketbooks and get their tax exemption removed and get a full-scale investigation opened up. Those are the things that will help. So until then, giving the victims a voice, a platform to speak their truth on, I don't know what it's going to take for any of these government agencies to listen to the Church of Scientology victims and wake up. Like, how far is too far? What's going to have to happen? I don't know. Like, it's really scary to ask that question.
It looks like you're in a teenager's room.
Being solution-based in this setting feels very hopeless. I will say that. It feels very hopeless. Even with the stuff with OUR and Tim Ballard, at the end of the day, no matter what comes of this civil suit, no matter what comes of any of it, it feels hopeless because look what they got away with for how many years. We'll never know the extent of the harm done there. Bunny, I agree. Yeah. I'm glad she has a case in the courts. Or not in the courts. I don't know what's taking them so long to decide if they're going to file charges either. That blows my mind. But again, I don't know if it's because it's international. I don't know. Like, that really blows my mind. Hey, Lurker.
Is cashew?
No.
Darn it.
Brittany, that's really hard to. That one's really hard to even try and judge. I try not to armchair people's mental status, but without knowing her, I mean, we know the harm of mental illness, like the treatment, the lack of mental health treatment in the United States, what is happening. That's very evident, not with just within cults. I don't know. Honestly, I hate to even try to go on that. Oh, thank you, Cosmic. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm reading these. Yeah, stay safe. I think, Nisi, I think that's the only way he can stay safe, honestly, at this point in time. Like, we can't diminish the fact that he is one of their main targets because he does hold a lot of the secrets. Like, let's be honest. There's a lot of people that were in those upper groups that hold a lot of secrets that they don't want. And why they want them silenced and why they want them shut down is because they don't want a full-scale investigation ever opened up. I just don't understand who the fuck is not saying to themselves in a government agency, like, this needs to be fully investigated. Like, what are we doing here? But then, people are so quick to try and freedom of religion, freedom of choice. These are adults. No, they're not. We have children involved in this. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I say that all the time. I don't know what the answer is, but talking about it is the only thing I can really offer, because people need to wake up and realize the harm that these cults do. I say firsthand myself, I had to step away from it because it hits me really hard with this stuff. And it hits me in a spot that is very uncomfortable because there's no right answer. You want somebody to come in and fix it and just make it go away, and that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. There's no easy fix for this shit. I get sick of hearing people say, well, we have the choice of, we can believe in whatever you want. Yeah, you can believe that shit. But that stops when your beliefs infringe on another human's rights. And that's what we have in most of these situations, is human rights issues. Revival, huge blessing. That is a huge blessing. Their numbers have never been huge, like the Mormon church. Like, that's why I always get a little like, but they're not growing. They haven't been for a long time. So that's why I say, like, we can acknowledge the good that's been done from things like a reality show, right? People have watched that. There's a lot of people that have never watched it, though, too. A reality TV show is never going to fix the abuses that have been done. I think, I don't know, talking about it, continuing to talk about it, getting somebody in a government agency to open their eyes and then do a full-scale investigation into their tax exemption. But then nobody wants to talk about the political elements that goes around this. Oh, bunny, yeah.
Man, it's hot.
Abso-fucking-lutely, in my opinion, yes. Way worse. Yeah. The one thing I will say, though, I said to Kyle last night, I was explaining this situation to Kyle about what was going on, and I said, the one thing about Mormons is they'll bake you a casserole and bring it to you when they're pissed at you and you've, like, outed them for something. Scientology will fair game you and do a whole smear campaign on you. Mormon church, at least you get a casserole out of it first. Like, and he was laughing. He was like, yeah, that's very true. Like, it's a whole different world. But these people who are put in these positions, like, they have a lot to lose. So, of course, having the spotlight turned on them is not a good thing. But if anything, I hope the Aftermath Foundation continues to do good for victims. But I hope they reevaluate some shit and realize that this was a really, really bad move. No matter what. Mike should have never hid behind the Aftermath Foundation and done this and ever released a victim's information. This is going forward. I hope victims are very careful with what they give them, because this is a huge letdown, especially to people that have suffered trauma and they just are looking for somebody to prove them that they can be trusted. You have a bunch of people who have lost trust in everything for a reason, because everything they've known their entire lives and been taught to believe their entire lives goes crumbling. They don't trust anyone. And then when they decide to finally ask for help to get therapy, it's an utter smack in the face to be done like this. Peekaboo, right? I know. I know. They'll bring you Mormon funeral potatoes. And then they'll set you up for an assassination attempt on the, Ecuadorian presidential candidate. These people, that's the other thing. You got to remember who they associate with. You've got LAPD. We did a whole thing on it the other day. Yeah, we talked about all of that. I've been deep in, like, the foundation of Scientology back in the 50s and everything. Yeah, we talked a lot about that. Operation Snow White. Yep. Paulette Cooper was the journalist that they tried framing for bomb threats. Mike, I want to know, were you around for those days? Did you have any hand in Paulette Cooper's fair gaming? I really want to know, just on a personal level. I would love to know that. Oh, Bunny, yeah. Yep. Hey, Michael. Nisi, it's because nobody wants to talk about religion because we are taught not to talk about religion and politics. That is ingrained in people. I hear it all the time. You don't talk about, if you want to keep friends, you don't talk about religion or politics. Where did that fucking mentality come from? Where did that come? From the people who are using those things to abuse others. That's where it came from. And that continues. And that mindset right there continues to keep people like this in power, and the wealthy continuing to harm people over and over again, because people are so skirted around. You're going to offend somebody. I'm going to offend the fuck out of you no matter what. Chances are I offend everybody just by existing. At least if I'm going to offend you, let me give you a reason to offend you. There's so many fascinating crime stories in all of these high demand religions. Trust me. Trust me. There's a lot. There's a whole lot. The Mormon Church, they have a lot of doctors. You can go to a doctor as long as you have a prescription for anything within the Mormon Church. It's fine. They believe in medical care. There's a lot of Mormons doctors, a lot of Mormon chiropractors, which that's a little odd to me. I like chiropractors for some stuff, but it's also really odd to me on some stuff. We won't go into that whole thing. They also are the biggest. Utah is the #1 MLM capital of the world. Goes hand in hand with Mormon teachings, a lot of it. How to get people to buy into MLMs. It's kind of trained in the missionary trainings, in my opinion. They believe in mental health, but you see who they promote, like their people to go to is like the Jody Hildebrands. Granted, there are some amazing LDS therapists that I know personally. They're few and far between, though, because everything's within a teaching, and they don't stay confidential a lot of times either. Oh, revival.
Whoa, what the heck?
Yeah, the Catholic Church, evangelical Christians, Pentecostal, the Amish community, LDS, Scientology, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist in some locations, Baptist.
Did you hear about this?
It's all over. Bunny, the caudal injections went great. The piriformis muscle injection, loved. I will be doing another one of those in like another month and a half.
Did you hear about the family that hit a pothole and it killed their daughter because they lost control of their car?
In Portland?
No, Kansas City.
Mm-mm.
That's sad.
I was raised Catholic, and there were things nobody spoke about out loud. I knew I couldn't tell anyone what was happening to me, because
How does that even happen?
you see, that happens a lot. Yeah. And even when you attempt to tell somebody, they don't want to hear it, because then they have to admit the reality of what they've known all along is true. Mm-hmm. Big, then she's not doing it right. I mean, she is doing it right. Disconnection is huge. That's another thing I think people don't really realize either, is disconnection isn't typical in just Scientology. When you leave a cult, or anybody that has the cult beliefs, once you are out of that belief system, it is, if you want to maintain your status quo within the cult and your group that you have built, disconnection has to happen. I was disconnected for the first time verbally. Please shut my door. Mm-hmm. At 14, because I didn't have the same religious beliefs. 14 years old. I didn't fucking know the slightest thing, but I wasn't living up to the standards of what I should have been. I was a child. I wasn't doing anything at 14. I wasn't doing anything to be shunned. What? That's not a only Scientology thing. That is a cult tactic across the board. Yep, T, I agree with that. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. She must be public. You became an atheist at 14? What? Oh, I'm sorry, Nisi. I'm really sorry. And if that mindset of, oh, it happens to no, it fucking doesn't. And if it did in their environment and that's what they know is normalcy, that's not fucking normal. We have got to change the level of that's not acceptable and it's not normal. We've got to start acknowledging that this is not normal behavior. Yeah, it's all fucked up. I have a real hard time watching Reese because Reese hits home for me. Reese is like, there's so much I can relate to her on a very personal level, like very similar experience on so much, just different cults. Very similar self-doubt, very similar don't trust men, very similar felt like I deserved to be abused. That's all I knew. It was comfortable kind of thing. Like all of those things, like I relate so much to her. So I have to step back a lot at oftentimes from watching this stuff because it's a lot for me and where I try to like shelf my trauma, it opens it up big time at times. And then I have to realize like, oh, fuck, here it is again. Like when you think you have everything, that you've dealt with everything, then you realize you really haven't, or something hits another nerve and you're like, oh, that fucking hurt. Like, and you didn't expect it to. Nobody else. That's why I have like the thickest skin. Nobody else will ever hurt me the way that I've judged myself for things I wasn't even, I had no control over. When you grow up in that indoctrination, you become very thick-skinned. So random people will never doubt me as much as I doubted myself or felt that I wasn't deserving. Especially people on YouTube. Like there isn't nothing that will ever faze me like that. Yeah, Nisi. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's great, Big. I'm so glad. That's great. Baptizing kids, yeah. And what fucking 8-year-olds, speaking of the Mormon church, what fucking 8-year-old knows what the hell they're doing or committing to for the rest of their lives at 8? I mean, I know a lot of them, like Lutherans and stuff. I was baptized as a baby, but at an 8-year-old for LDS, you don't know what you're signing up for. Yeah, Nisi, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it feels better just to leave stuff there. It's like, it's better just tracked up. All right, y'all, I'm just babbling on now, but I wanted to bring that to light because that really pisses me off how that's being twisted to be like the Aftermath is being attacked. You weaponized the Aftermath Foundation and brought them into this. They can do good things. Stick to doing good things. Stick to doing good for people. A personal attack, I guess you would feel like it's personal if you've been a part of all of this stuff for so long too. No, I was not big. Nope, I'm never Mormon either. I've never told I have never spoke about it just because it's something for me. I'm not ready. I'll be honest, because it will be like a 15-part series of talking about shit. And I don't really like talking. I don't like talking a lot about me, like my health, any of that kind of stuff. I just kind of chalk it up to what it is and just keep it moving most of the time. I'm one of the ones that doesn't like to be the center of attention. I don't like to cry on camera. I'm super sensitive though, so you know that, but I don't know. I'm in a weird space with it. Right, Michael? Right? 8. Yeah. Yeah, no, Cosmic, you are so right. It is all humans deserve better than these cults, but until we start collectively coming to the thing, and the one thing I think that bothers me too is ex-members of every cult, instead of like one thing I found very healing for me was immersing myself in other high indoctrinated religions and the abuses because it made me feel not alone. It made me feel like, oh my God, there's a whole world of us out here. The abuse is all different, but the same tactics are still similar and it makes you feel not alone. Like it really does make you feel better. I hate to say that because it's really fucked up because you don't want anybody to experience these things, but those of you that have been in cults will understand what I'm saying. Like it makes you feel like I'm not crazy for feeling this way, like other people feel this way that have been through the same stuff. Bye, Bunny Bunny. Have a good day. Oh, absolutely, Peekaboo. I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth situation on this, but I just had to speak on this because it really bothered me, and I'll be damned if they fuck with Rabbit. Like, at first, I was really confused. I was talking to Revival, and I was really confused. I was like, what? Because I'm worried about the intensity of this and Rabbit being stuck in the middle and, like, taking the hits from all these people. But I know what Rabbit's heart is doing. She's just providing and facilitating a place for a victim. Like, that's all that Rabbit cares about, and I am so proud of her for doing that, but I'll be damned. Like, the way they're trying to diminish her in this whole thing when in reality, they came to her. Like, it's just screwed up. Absolutely, Nisi. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Michael. Oh, Kathy P, go read Rinder's blog. Mike Rinder's blog. Go read it. He's making some jabs at Rabbit. That's my concern is the real life shit that happens. Accounting by day. Let's go 49ers. Let's go Chiefs. Oh, by the way, I gotta go. My girls are home. I got motocross tomorrow. I'll see you guys all tomorrow for the race day when Kyle and I are out. We will be out and about tomorrow at the races. So I will probably come on and stream the races for you guys. Malcolm Stewart, better not get hurt because I'll be pissed. But I'll talk to you guys all later. Have a great rest of your night. See y'all later. Bye.